there are certain mantras you can chant even from the normal way as well as reverse. So if you can do that for us, it will be very beautiful.
One of the mantrams that we normally chant is, we all know, is the Shivopasana mantra. The Shivopasana mantra, we chant the 5 important mantrams, which starts with Bhavaya Namaha, Bhavalingaya Namaha, Sharvaya Namaha, Sharvalingaya Namaha, Shivaya Namaha, Shivalingaya Namaha, Jwalaya Namaha, Jwalalingaya Namaha, Atmaya Namaha, Atmalingaya Namaha, Paramaya Namaha, Paramalingaya Namaha, Etat Somasya Suryasya Sarvalingagasta Payati Pani Mantram Pavitram. After this, there are 5 mantrams which are essentially chanted before Lord Shiva. The first mantram is called as the Sadhyojatam. Sadhyojatam prapadyami sadhyojataya vai namo namaha. Bhave bhavenati bhave bhavasvamam bhavodbhavaya namaha. The next mantram is called as the Vamadeva mantram. Vamadevaya namo jyeshtaya namasreshtaya namo rudraya namakkalaya namakkalavikarnaya namo balavikarnaya namo balaya namo balapramathanaya namah sarvabhutadamanaya namo manonmanaya namah. The next mantram is called as the Aghora mantram. Aghorebhyo tagorebhyo ghora ghora tarebhyah sarvebhyah sarvasharvebhyo namaste astu rudra rupebhyah. The fourth mantram is the Tatpurusha mantram. Tatpurushaya vidmahe mahadevaya dhimahi tanno rudra prachodayat. The fifth mantram is the Ishana mantram. Ishana sarva vidyanam ishvara sarva bhutanam brahmadipatir brahmanodipatir brahma shivo me astu sada shivom. Now these mantrams, I had once upon a time practiced it so much that I could chant them from the back side. That is, start with the Ishana mantram, then the Tatpurusha mantram, then the Aghora mantram, then the Vamadeva mantram, and then Sadhyojata mantram. Ishana sarva vidyanam ishvara sarva bhutanam brahmadipatir brahmanodipatir brahma shivo me astu sada shivom tatpurushaya vidmahe mahadevaya dhimahi tanno rudra prachodayat. Aghorebhyo tagorebhyo ghora ghora tarebhyah sarvebhyah sarvasharvebhyo namaste astu rudra rupebhyah. Vamadevaya namo jyeshtaya namasreshtaya namo rudraya namakkalaya namakkalavikarnaya namo balavikarnaya namo balaya namo balapramathanaya namah sarvabhutadamanaya namo manonmanaya namah. Sadhyojatam prapadyami sadhyojataya vai namo namah. Bhave bhavenati bhave bhavasvamam bhavodbhavaya namah.
You're someone who has spent more than 4 decades with Bhagavan as a student, as a teacher, and now a director of the campus in Brindavan. If you can also share with us, what has this chanting done to you personally, and what impact of this chanting have you seen in the students?
This is something which I would cherish to answer. Indeed, what this particular Vedam has done to me, one thing which I personally feel, by chanting Vedic mantras over now several decades, one of the things that has happened to me, I personally feel, is that my whatever I speak is indeed very clear to others. What it really means is, Vedam provides this very big advantage of Vak Shuddhi. Because we chant Vedic mantras, and very interestingly, many people don't know that Vedic mantras can ensure that the tongue gets twisted and exercised in every single direction. That is supposed to be the most ideal exercise for the tongue, is to actually chant Vedic mantras. Hagum sassuchishadvasurantariksha saddhotave dishadadhitir duro nasat Drishadvara sadrita sadvyoma sadabja goja ritaja adrija ritam brihat. If we just chant this particular mantra, if we very carefully observe, our tongue gets twisted as well as exercised in every direction. Because of which, as we keep chanting Vedic mantras, our speech becomes clearer. And that is what is technically called as Vak Shuddhi. But additionally, we become much more patient. We become very peaceful because we are chanting these Vedic mantras. And the Vedic mantras are nothing but the most primordial positive vibrations in the universe. And when we become a part of that, we get that positivity, we get that peace, inner peace. And that ensures that we are able to vibrate that inner peace and that positivity to many others. In fact, many students come and ask me, "Sir, how is it that you are able to maintain a wonderful smile throughout?" One of the things I can tell is I am able to maintain the smile irrespective of whatever work that I have. I never get stressed out because I know that within myself I am fully peaceful, and that peace comes because we continuously keep chanting. We get multiple opportunities to keep chanting Vedam, and that Vedam adds to the positive vibrations within ourselves. Also, because as we grow, we also learn a little bit of the meaning of all these mantras, and that makes us ensure that we practice whatever we chant, so that we also become better human beings. So therefore, when we chant Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara, automatically we ensure that we also have to be always truthful. We also should conduct ourselves in the righteous manner always. So therefore, all this ensures that it continuously keeps us always remember that we must be always careful. We should also follow the righteous path. So therefore, Vedam chanting is indeed a transformative experience for me. So I personally feel I have got indeed transformed by Vedam chanting. Additionally, when we teach it to the students and students start chanting this, we do find in the students we find significant behavioral changes. Students slowly become more and more patient. They become willing listeners. Many times students like to talk, they don't like to listen. So slowly they become patient and they become willing listeners. And as they listen, they understand others' opinion and they become much more knowledgeable. All these things happen slowly, gradually. But once the student finds that how he compares himself when he was in his very first year, when he joined the institute, compared to when he leaves the institute, he'll find there is a significant change in him. And a reasonable part of this change comes because of their opportunities to chant Vedam. Without their knowledge, as a part of their regular routine, they start chanting Vedam and they find all these changes happening gradually to all of them.
We really want to go back and relive those beautiful times of Dasara celebrations in the divine physical presence of Bhagavan. And I also understand that your first darshan happened during Dasara. Please take us back to those days.
For me personally, Dasara is a very special occasion. My very first darshan of Swami happened during Dasara. I very vividly remember this was somewhere in the year 1978-79. I was studying possibly in the 8th standard or 9th standard in a place called Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. And I came to Prasanthi Nilayam for the very first time to participate in the Dasara celebrations. Of course, I was more like an audience, and it was such a wonderful opportunity, such a great blessing, because that was the very first time I also had Bhagavan's darshan. But my father had come earlier also many times to Prasanthi Nilayam. But for me, it was one of the rare opportunities to come along with my father to Prasanthi Nilayam and spend close to 10 days at Prasanthi Nilayam, not only bask in Swami's divine blessings, in fact, at that time, I did not even know that a few years down the line, I would be actually joining the Brindavan campus in the year 1982. But I still vividly remember the 1970s. In fact, the Prasanthi Nilayam today that we see has so much of facilities and so much of wonderful arrangements for the devotees. In those times, in the late 1970s, the arrangements were quite rudimentary. I remember coming with my father to Prasanthi Nilayam, and we were directed towards the sheds. And the shed, I remember, was somewhere in the place where currently we have the north blocks. And we were going to one of the sheds. Most of the sheds were full with devotees. One of the sheds, which was not occupied, was slowly being allowed for devotees. It was one of the last few sheds. The interesting thing I still remember was that particular shed did not even have a flooring. It was just that there was a roof on the top, and we all had to put all our luggage and whatever bedding that we had got with us on the directly on the earth, on the floor, and we had to necessarily live there. It was, in spite of all of that, it was a very, very comfortable, most importantly, very enjoyable trip to me, because I was there in Prasanthi Nilayam for the first time. It was for me very enjoyable staying in Prasanthi Nilayam, having Swami's darshan daily. I again vividly remember seeing the yajnam, and I could at that time chant some of the mantrams which the pujaris were all chanting, the priests were all chanting. I felt very happy. That was the way I could participate in the yajnam. But one thing which really stands out for me was on the final day, Swami did the Vibhuti Abhishekam to Shirdi Baba. I still very, very vividly remember that incident where Professor Kasturi was holding the urn into which Swami had put his hand, and Swami was creating so much of Vibhuti. It was all very, very wonderful for me to see, and it was something which even to this moment is etched in my mind. I feel so blessed that it was during Dasara I got the first opportunity to visit Prasanthi Nilayam, and I also got the first darshan of Swami. And I personally feel it was Dasara which pulled me to Prasanthi Nilayam, and later, just in few years later, I got the wonderful blessing of joining Swami's college for my 11th class in the year 1982 in Brindavan. So therefore, for me personally, the 1970s Dasara is something very special which I continue to cherish in my heart even till this day. So, our family is a traditional South Indian family. So therefore, Vedam chanting, Shlokam chanting were all actually part of our regular upbringing. However, my father wanted to learn Vedam, and we did have a Pandit from the Kanchi Matam who was there in Coimbatore at that time. He agreed to come to our home and teach my father. However, my father also insisted that I should also sit for those Vedam classes. So it was during my 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, around 4 years, I used to have everyday Vedam classes along with that Pandit, along with my father, for almost half an hour to 1 hour every day. That over these 4 years, I had learned sufficient Vedic mantras that when I actually joined Brindavan in the 11th class, to my surprise, I knew all the mantrams that were being normally chanted at the Brindavan campus and much more. And this was something a blessing that Swami had given to me even before I joined the Brindavan campus. So I remember within the first year of joining, that was in my 11th class or 12th class, one of those times, I was given an opportunity to chant Vedam along with all the other senior students, including the senior people like Vedanarayan and others, as well as Kamavadani Garu. I was allowed to chant. Normally, it would be that, and the practice would be that unless a student really knows a lot of mantras and able to chant very confidently, they would not allow them to actually come and chant on the stage. But I was given that blessing of actually starting to chant Vedam literally from my 11th class onwards on the stage. And we used to get these opportunities of being a part of the Dasara Vedam chanting very regularly. And slowly from the Dasara chanting, I remember during the 60th birthday time, just before the 60th birthday, Swami selected a few students from across both the campuses, that is Brindavan and Prasanthi Nilayam. Swami gave us red dhotis and the Angavastrams for the very first time. And it was a great blessing for me, one among the very first batch of students to be given that red dhoti along with Angavastram. Though that particular year it was not for Dasara, it was for the 60th birthday, but we got the opportunity to participate in literally every program. I remember during that year, there was the inauguration of the planetarium, there was the inauguration of the administration building, the ad block. We were given opportunities to participate in every of these programs. Everything happened purely because that I could chant the Vedic mantras which Swami had blessed me to learn thoroughly. And so in the 1980s, we got multiple opportunities to chant Vedam. Yesterday, as the bhajans were going on the big screen in Kulwant Hall, suddenly they were playing, yesterday as well as today, they were playing a video of the 1980s Dasara celebration. Swami was there, and to my astonishment, I felt very happy to see my younger self. It was literally the 1980s. It was close to 40 years, 30 to 40 years before. And I could see my younger self, Swami, coming and specifically directing us all off to sit where we have to sit on the stage and how we should chant. It was in those 1980s, I remember Swami's participation in Dasara celebrations was just complete. Every single moment and every single action on the stage was actually personally directed by Swami, including the moment from which the fire is created till the moment where the Purnahuti actually happens. Every single action Swami would personally direct, and I was blessed enough to see it at extremely close quarters. Only reason, again, I was a part of the Vedam group. So yesterday I was actually watching that, and I remember even today I remember I was literally a few inches away from where Swami had created a very huge gem necklace to one of the main pujaris. I even remember Swami creating, and that necklace literally fell from Swami's palm, and Swami held it, and as it fell, it was swaying. And I could feel, I even now am able to feel that it's actually coming extremely close to me and going by, because I was sitting literally at Swami's feet that day for chanting Vedam. So therefore, it was again a very wonderful 1980s time where a large, very good amount of participation that we had during the several Dasara programs, and it was wonderful Vedam chanting. I also remember one occasion where Swami wanted us to chant the Vedic mantras and not the pujaris related to the mantra pushpam which is chanted. Normally, the pujaris would chant the mantra pushpam. One day, Swami specifically asked the pujaris to keep sitting and continuing their work. Swami asked us to chant the entire Mantra Pushpam. So I remember the 1980s Dasara again as a student, both at Brindavan till the year 1987, and after that as a MBA student here at Prasanthi Nilayam. Extremely enjoyable time till I joined for my research in the year 1989. So the 1980s Dasara was once again a very, very enjoyable moment to me. I personally see the Dasara not only as a beautiful function at Prasanthi Nilayam, I see the Dasara as my own growth in this particular place. In the 1970s, I came as an outsider, as a student from an outside institution. In the 1980s, I came as a student of Swami's education institutions. And in the 1990s, Swami had asked me to join for my PhD, and I had already started teaching for the MBA classes. At that time, Swami wanted me to take more organizing responsibilities. So I remember Swami would inform the warden at that time that Swami will provide, Swami will bless all the students with Vedam dhotis, and the warden would invariably call me to find out how many students were involved or how many students were there to whom we had to pray to Swami for Vedam Pattu dhotis. I remember writing with the help of warden, writing letters to Bhagavan and taking it to Purnachandra and sending it inside, telling the number of students for whom the Pattu dhotis we are praying to Swami to bless with. It was yet another form of participating in the organizing of the program. I remember I was seated in the Kulwant hall, and one day Swami was standing very close to the interview room, possibly close to, between myself and Swami, there would have been at least 40 to 50 meters distance. But even now I can remember Swami keenly looking at me from that distance of close to 50 meters. I knew Swami was directly looking at me, and I could make out from that distance that Swami wanted to interact with me. Swami made a very, very small eye and hand movement. I went close to Swami, and Swami, based on the letter that I had given that earlier, Swami asked me how many dhotis were required, and I did mention to Swami that so many students were there. I even wrote it in a small slip of paper telling that these were the number of students. I still remember Swami very joyfully, happily took that slip of paper from me, read through it, tore it, and then Swami put it in my pocket, that same paper. So therefore, that was the way Swami interacted. For Swami, the students who were chanting Vedam were indeed special, because they were given this opportunity to participate in the Dasara Yajnam directly by Bhagavan. And so therefore, during the 90s, we got this very wonderful opportunity. Once again, I was a part of the organizing group. As in the year 1995, we had the 70th birthday, and during the 70th birthday, again Vedam was a very, very big item. But Swami ensured that all the students who were a part of the Vedam would get the Vedam dhotis, and Swami personally ensured that the students would be available for chanting. One important thing I remember, in the 1990s, one particular year, Swami wanted the Vedam to be chanted for very long times. In fact, we used to chant Vedam during that year, during the Dasara time, almost every day, some 4-5 hours. Swami would expect us to be there in front of the interview room at morning somewhere around 7 o'clock. So we would come there. Swami would then come and give darshan. Swami had by then shifted to the Purnachandra, and Swami would give darshan. Swami would actually take devotees inside, but before taking the devotees inside, Swami will send the Vedam students inside and ask them to chant Vedam inside interview room. I remember we used to keep on chanting Vedam inside the interview room as Swami conducted the regular interviews for devotees. And we were still chanting Vedam. Swami didn't ask us to stop at all. Swami continued his interviews and we were chanting Vedam. I also remember during one particular occasion, Swami took a select group of students and staff upstairs in the bhajan hall to his quarters where he had stayed before shifting to Purnachandra. Swami took us to every room, everywhere we went and we chanted Vedam. We could see Swami wanted us to chant Vedam that year so much. And we kept on chanting. I remember after that, after chanting for 3 hours plus in Mandir, then Swami, when we would go to Purnachandra and then chant Vedam as a part of the Yajnam also. And Swami would want us to keep on chanting. I remember this particular incident. After some time, because I was chanting for many hours every day, I suddenly found that my voice had become extremely hoarse. And the day before Purnahuti day, I remember one more teacher coming and asking me the time. I opened my mouth to tell the time, but to my own utter surprise, I found there was no voice coming out because the voice had got strained so much. But I also knew the very next day, the mic would be kept in front of me so that I would be part of the mantra pushpam chanting. And I was dreading that moment because my voice was absolutely hoarse. In fact, there was no voice coming out. The next day, I was seated there. The mic was kept in front of me. The mantra pushpam chanting started. Swami turned towards us students and staff and Swami asked us to start chanting. I remember that moment, miraculously the voice came back and I chanted the entire mantra pushpam for 15-20 minutes in a very high pitch, and Swami was continuously increasing the pitch. We kept on chanting at high pitches. I remember after the program, a few elders came and told that today the chanting was so nice. Swami was so much involved in the chanting. And I also felt extremely happy. I went back to the hostel and then again somebody attempted to speak to me. I wanted to reply and to my utter surprise, there was no voice. There is absolutely, I could not speak anything. So just before the program, my voice was not there. For that 20 minutes of the mantra pushpam chanting, my voice was crystal clear. I could chant thoroughly. And then immediately after the program, again, I didn't have voice. It was literally, it took 2 to 3 days for the slowly the throat to get settled down and I could recover back my voice. I remember Swami literally blessing me so that I would be able to perform my duty. This was something which I even to this day I feel as a extraordinary blessing because Swami had blessed me specially on that day to ensure that I will be able to chant. All these wonderful things happened in the 90s, wherein I got an opportunity to be a part of the organizing group of teachers as long as I stayed in Prasanthi Nilayam till the year 1997. From 1997, I was transferred to Brindavan campus back as a teacher, and my participation in the Vedam was more as a teacher from the Brindavan campus. And it was wonderful again because Swami would continuously keep on blessing us. We were continuously getting the chances, but I still remember the 1990s Vedams. Again, as an part of the teachers group organizing the Vedam chanting, I can remember it very fresh in my mind. It was all Swami's blessings. That's how from the 1970s as an outside student, as 1980s as a student of the campus, and 1990s as a teacher and organizer, and now we come to the 2000s. Once we become teachers, it is no more only our participation. As a student, I didn't have to worry about how others were chanting. But now that I became a teacher, it was my responsibility to ensure that not only I would chant well, but all other students would also chant well. So, therefore, it became the additional responsibility to ensure that we continuously keep training students. So, all the devotees would be seeing students actually chanting Vedam during Dasara. But we would like to tell you all that behind this, there is a long process. Throughout the year, the students keep on getting opportunities to chant Vedam every day. There are Vedam classes which are held every day, and students keep on learning as well as chanting Vedic mantras, so that during Dasara time, all the students are able to chant very confidently. I remember again in the 2000s, where as a teacher I used to get opportunities again to chant Vedam and also make students also chant. One of the beautiful things I remember during Dasara was that how much Swami is directly connected with the yajnam, as well as how much he is observing us. On one particular occasion, the organizers at Prasanthi Nilayam, they actually came and told the pujaris that Swami would not be coming for the taking the arati during that morning session, and therefore the pujaris were asked to chant the mantra pushpam. So I remember the pujaris and along with the students we chanted the mantra pushpam and the arati was taken. As we were moving out, Swami came into the stage and we all rushed back. And then Swami asked us very jokingly, how come you all finished the arati without me? Then we told, no Swami, we are waiting for you to do the arati. I remember we once again chanted the mantra pushpam and the arati once again happened. How Swami ensured that we would get the opportunity of chanting the mantra pushpam in his divine presence. It was very wonderful. Another day, I remember I was chanting Vedam, and for me, Vedam chanting, because many times I get to chant on the mic, I have to ensure that my voice is really in good condition. So therefore, I normally have a clove in my pocket, and whenever I feel that my voice could become a bit hoarse, I'll just put that clove into my mouth and keep on slowly chewing it, so that essence of that clove will ensure that the voice is smooth. So as I was chanting and I had put a clove in my mouth, Swami came for the inside the Purnachandra. Swami came in the wheelchair. Swami was taken across the entire Purnachandra. Swami went and gave darshan. And I remember from literally far away in the Purnachandra, we were all sitting on the stage. Swami was literally at the back of Purnachandra. Swami was coming towards the stage. I could see Swami was watching towards the stage and Swami was telling something. I could not make out. But I could make out that Swami was seeing me and telling something. And I was surprised. Swami came onto the stage. Swami went to the place where they would normally do the arati. Swami took the arati. By that, we had also finished chanting the mantra pushpam. Swami slowly started moving towards the place where we were all sitting. And I could make out Swami was telling exactly the same thing throughout. And I knew Swami was telling something about me. And I was not sure what was that. As Swami came very close, I was trying to make out what Swami was telling. And that time I could make out how much observant Swami was. Swami was telling in Telugu, actually seeing me, Swami had told in Telugu, Emo Tintunnadu. He is chewing something. That was Swami. Swami had told this from literally 100 to 150 meters away. Swami had observed this and told. But I felt very happy. From such a distance, Swami had been observing me, that I had chewed that clove just to ensure that my throat was in good condition. Yet, we have to be one important lesson that Swami wanted me to learn was that we have to be extremely careful, because that same whatever we are doing is actually being observed by many devotees, and therefore we have to be very careful and we have to be very discreet. So Swami in a very beautiful way taught me that how we should be very careful and discreet. Yet another incident I recollect is how on one particular day Swami, that was on the starting of the Dasara, Swami had asked the pujaris to carry the kalasham from the mandir to Purnachandra, and Swami asked us to move. And as we were moving out, there in front of the interview room, there is Swami's doormat. And it's our normal practice to ensure that we don't step on that doormat. So therefore, I just took a small leap over the doormat, but I missed my step. I literally went and almost I was about to fall onto a very senior devotee there. But that was taken very amiss by Swami, because Swami wanted us to be extremely careful even when we walk. So I was called specifically by the warden that day and told very carefully that I should walk. The next day, Swami was watching us, how we were walking, and Swami ensured that that doormat was removed and we will walk normally without jumping over the doormat. And Swami ensured that we will walk normally, and Swami was observing every single student doing that. That is the level to which Swami is observant, and Swami wants us to be extremely, very, very careful. One of the important lessons that Dasara has taught me is that I have to be always careful. A, B, C. Always be careful. And this is something which I take it as a very important lesson, not only for me, but all of us devotees. We should be extremely careful in whichever action we do. And Dasara gave me that wonderful opportunity to learn. The last lesson that I would like to add with regard to this Dasara, it happened actually just very recently. Normally there is one particular mantram called Narya Prajam Me Gopaya. That is the starting mantram of the mantra pushpam. Normally the pujaris, they themselves take the lead and chant that entire mantram. So therefore, the students and the staff here, we would not actually participate in that mantra. But a few days back, the pujaris asked us to chant, and we were taken by surprise. And though we knew the mantram, we were not very confident in chanting it. We did chant it. However, I took it as a important responsibility for myself. I remember going back home and chanting that particular mantram 108 times. It took for me more than 3 hours to chant, but I chanted it 108 times so that I could chant that particular piece even by seeing, but I could chant it very comfortably. Swami wants us to be professional. Swami wants us to be competent. Swami wants us to ensure that whatever we do is done perfectly. That is what is the Bhagavad Gita tells, Yogaha Karmasu Kausalam. Excellence in action is yoga. Swami taught me how even while chanting Vedam, we should never ensure that we don't take it casually. We still have to do it professionally, and I felt extremely happy when we could chant this particular mantram in a very professional manner, because I was very thorough chanting this mantram. So therefore, some few important lessons, as I just now mentioned. We have to be always careful. Swami is continuously watching us, and Vedam chanting also must be done in a very professional and proper manner. And that is how something Swami has ensured that we, the students and the staff who participate in the Dasara Yajnam, we get this opportunity year after year.
Today, when we see the Vedic movement, especially in Satyasai educational institutions, you're reminded of the Veda Pathshala which Swami started. And at that time, just a few students. And Bhagavan in those days itself used to say that, there will be a time when there will be a Vedic university set up. And nobody had an idea that actually the regular university would itself in a way convert to be a university where all the students will be chanting. Today you see the transformation of that. Isn't that such a heartening feeling for you?
100%. I totally agree. When we find every student chanting Vedam, and that too chanting some mantra or another, it becomes something we really understand how we are able to create students who are unique and different from others. In fact, I have found out that our students, the only reason they have studied in our university was sufficient enough for making them Balvikas gurus wherever they were. So students went and settled down in UK, New Zealand, Canada. The only qualification was they had studied in our institute. They went there and they became Balvikas gurus and they started teaching Vedam to others. And students have come and reported to me that whatever Vedic mantras that they learnt at Brindavan, at Prasanthi Nilayam, was so valuable to them that they could pass it on to the children there in their places. So therefore, indeed, when Swami did talk about a university which would be steeped in the Vedas, it is indeed the Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, where every student gets an opportunity to chant, learn and chant the Vedic mantras. I would like to conclude by praying to Swami to bless all of us that we continue getting these chances of chanting Vedam during Dasara, because it is something that we cherish, and we do it only and only to ensure that we see that smile in Swami, because Swami is indeed the Veda Purusha. And what great blessing that we will have by chanting that very same Vedam which originated from Bhagavan himself. We offer it back to Swami. I thank the Satya Sai Media Center for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences related to Dasara on this occasion. Thank you, Sai Ram.